teammates. This is how you draw it up when you drive to the tournament.
We haven't seen anything like this since Metagame Gurus back in Dallas of 2016.
Now, both representing the bearded dragon. Now, Dominic, Harvey on the play here for the finals, starting with an Amulet of Vigor and Ancient Stirrings. And this matchup, game one is mostly a race. You don't see too much that Patel's going to do to interact here.
No, not really. Both players are just saying, all right, how can I attack in multiples of 3 until the other person's life is a multiple of 0?
Amulet finding a land is going to be 2 mana off the Simic Growth Chamber and a second Ancient Stirrings. A blue mana floating, though Dominic's not going to be able to spend that unless he finds another Amulet.
Speak of the devil from the looks of things.
And it looks like there is a second Amulet of Vigor there. At that point, you're a bounce land away from a Titan.
Yeah, and, 2 Amulet of Vigors and a Titan, that's the kill.
Yeah, that will do it certainly in game one. Now, if you weren't with us during the semifinals, Dominic Harvey's list is a pretty neat one this weekend. You see in his hand a copy of Wayward Swordtooth. He has 3 of those in addition to the 4 Azusas, and a Coalition Relic, and he has a full playset of Through the Breach and 2 copies of Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. Yeah, it goes big.
During the Swiss, he actually threw the breach and Emrakul on Ross.
Ooh, I do like the end part of that story.
Sorry, I'm too used to ribbing him and saying lost Miriam, and I had to filter it through and say I can't just say on loss.
You were trying to find a way if there was a word that means annihilator that rhymes with Ross. That was what we were going for.
Oh, yeah, instead of annihilator, it's annihilatoss.
He became cross Miriam. Yeah. Now, Tariq has a turn 2 Thing in the Ice on his side. 4 counters on that. Mostly that's just a 7-8 in this matchup, representing a fast clock.
Well, there's even a point where you can maybe get some permanents off the battlefield to make it so your Wayward Swordtooth doesn't get to attack as fast.
Being Wayward Swordtooth, that's the play for Dominic. Gives him 1 extra land drop, which is Gruul Turf. Kind of just building up to 6 mana. I'm not really using that extra mana off the Amulet. He's just making extra land drops.
Yeah, this is just kind of a situation where without that extra copy of Amulet, or any copies of Sakura Tribe Scout, Sky Shroud Ranger, etc., Harvey just has to make land drops the hard way to get up to Primeval Titan.
Yeah, Wayward Swordtooth is his second extra land drop source in the deck. Normally you'd see the Tribe Scout here, or sometimes you'd see Explorer in the spot.
This is a blocking creature.
This one, right, if he gains the City's Blessing, this 5/5 can attack and block. Thing in the Ice, and Manamorphose from Tariq, so 1 counter, floating 2 mana. We see Pyromancer Ascension, an innovation we've seen from a lot of the players in the main deck. Been pretty neat. Not really what I'd like in this matchup. You see there, the dinosaur here from Ixalan. Yeah, he gets now.
Rivals of Ixalan.
From Ixalan, the dinosaur from Ixalan block.
We are professionals, Matthias.
And you can play additional land. So it's half of an Azusa, but the upside is that late in the game you get a 5/5 off this.
Oh, yeah, it is 5 Azusas on the front. 2.5 Azusas on the back.
So it's about 3.75 Azusas at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not going to question that.
And the Transform of Woken Horror off Opt, that was 3 Metamorphoses from Tariq. All right.
Fair things.
This just is a 2-mana 7/8. Puts the dinosaur back into Dominic's hand.
Don't forget the unsummon on this 7/8.
Yeah, the number of games where Is It Phoenix just untaps with Thing in the Ice and makes it a 7/8 it's so unfair.
It's normal.
Right.
It's normal. These are things we would expect when looking at the card.
Yeah, still a red mana floating on Tariq's side.
Wow, that Pyromancer Ascension could be online right now.
Right, and that just shows how much, actually, I think he's respecting the matchup. In a slower matchup, when you have triple Manamorphose and a Pyromancer Ascension, you're going to play the Ascension first.
Oh, exactly. But here, it's kind of like we were talking about before. It is just all about racing, and taking a turn off from attacking with that Thing in the Ice is not remotely worth it.
Yeah. Here is It Charm, and look how much he's prioritizing Tariq, trying to find some Arclight Phoenixes to dump. Really wants to make this a 2-turn clock.
Oh, yeah, and it looks like there's one hanging out in the hand that'll make this 10 damage.
Okay, so there's 10. He has a Lightning Bolt in hand, setting up for a turn 4 win, and that's exactly what you want in these game 1s.
Oh, yeah. That's the best you can hope for in the deck.
Dominic down to 10. Draws back over to his side. Now, Amulet is not a deck that's going to have a ton of interaction at this point. It's a big turn, though. He has Amulet of Vigor. If he has a Primeval Titan and a Bounce Land, that's all it's going to take to get things moving.
Could take that. You could have Breach Emrakul.
That would certainly, that would get him back in it, I think.
Close if that were to happen.
And see what Harvey can put together. I don't think he has one of those power plays we're talking about.
No, that's definitely the situation where if your opponent's tapped out, you've played this, 17 rounds now in the event,
yeah.
You have an idea of how your deck works. You're not trying to do the math of, how do I cast stuff through the breach? It's trying to figure out how exactly you can not die here.
Vesuva is to start copying a Bounce Land. So, 6 mana as it picks up itself. See if it's Titan or it's a Through the Breach Titan. It's just a cast Primeval Titan. So, that'll enter the battlefield, no mana floating. Is Tariq pausing him on that? Don't think so.
You know what you do when nature calls?
Run.
Run.
Run. I know this one. I've read this card. It's Colony Garden and Simic Growth Chamber for Dominic. Gets that 0-1 blocker to potentially stop the Awoken Horror. Now, he has the option. He's going to take that and then use Wayward Swordtooth with the 3 mana, and then play the Colony Garden again for a second blocker. This is actually safer than giving the Primeval Titan haste.
Exactly, and getting really close to seeing a City's Blessing here.
We are at 9 permanents.
You know, we joke about that, but that's the difference between, a single Sunhome being lethal or not.
Yeah, and it's a possibility of another blocker on top of that. With this much to clean up, you're almost wanting on Tariq's side to need another thing in the ice here.
That, or we could be looking at some more Phoenixes. A lot
more Phoenixes.
Like several more.
Lightning Axe the pickup for Tariq. That can remove one of the blockers. Can he get to this point? If he can remove both the plant tokens, he can force Dominic to block with Primeval Titan, which is a pretty big win.
We even saw some points last week where Patel was able to set up or kind of trick the eventual winner, Ethan Gaiski, into a double block that ended up just destroying him on the back of that Lightning Axe.
All right. Faithless Looting from Tariq into a mountain and what looks like another transform, so another thing in the ice. Don't know that he'll have time to cast and transform that.
No, it looks like his window has passed, and when we joked about those Manamorphoses last turn, but there is definitely an issue in that kind of took some of Patel's future best draws away from him.
Patel's going to discard 2 lands here. Still has 1 more in hand. Yeah, the play, if he has a Lightning Bolt and Lightning Axe, which I think he has, and another red source, he can remove both plant tokens as blockers and then attack.
Right.
Looks like just a swing with a Awoken Horror and Is It Phoenix. That's going to allow Harvey to block with a plant token and go down to 7.
This is risky. But the other option is not getting through these plant tokens.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the line Tariq's on. He's got Dominic at 7. Maybe he's going to try to win through this Titan. He can also just Axe and Bolt the Titan.
It looks like he might be missing the red source needed in order to take that line.
Discarding Pyromancer, Ascension to the Lightning Axe. And yeah, he's just going to go outright and remove the Titan. And bolts the Titan.
Ooh.
So on this line, I mean, Pact Negation gets him here if Dominic has it.
We saw him top deck it last turn.
If that's the line from Tariq, I think I like removing the plants better because it's the same end result.
Right.
Dominic gets 1 more plant this way, but Tariq down to 1 card. And he does have another Primeval Titan in hand, so maybe none of this matters.
Yeah.
And here we see the 6/6. Let's count it back towards City's Blessing. Right now we see 5 lands and 4 permanents. So right at the end of this trigger, we're going to get some City's Blessing for Dominic Harvey. Untaps to give the Titan +2/+0 haste with Slayer's Stronghold. Picks up Colony Garden. Attacks with both. Gets another trigger. It's going to be a land in the Sun Home. He can double strike whichever one is not blocked, and game 1 will go to Dominic Harvey.
It really just felt like everything went Patel's way there in the early steps of the game, and it just wasn't good enough. Harvey was too explosive.
Yeah, I think the one part that doesn't go his way is the die roll. He wasn't, honestly, on the play, I do think that hand's good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. This really is a matter of, sometimes being the 2 seed isn't good enough because you might play against the 1 seed.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. So Dominic Harvey takes game 1 here with Amulet Titan, and this is, looking at the sideboards, this is the situation where I think some of the Izzet Phoenix deck has access to answers, but still not, the respect isn't being paid here. And a lot of this has to do with how much respect is being paid to things like Krark-Clan Ironworks at the moment.
Right. Things like Alpine Moon are not necessarily quite going to do it, but if you look there in the middle, we see 3 Abrade and 2 Ceremonious Rejection.
Yeah. And
that is some serious real estate being devoted to just answering Krark-Clan Ironworks.
Look, if he was boarding against Ironworks, you'd see Abrade, Ceremonious Rejection, Surgical, Dispel, well, maybe not Dispel, but Spell Pierce. We'd see a huge sideboard here.
Absolutely. There are a lot of things where you just have to kind of tailor your reactive cards away from these removal spells and into these things that answer specific kinds of spells because you just need to be efficient.
All right, now the last card here that Tariq has, a Dispel, I think is pretty good in the matchup. We see Breach, especially now that there's Through the Breach in the deck. I maybe go for Dispel and Spell Pierce.
Oh, I'm pretty into Spell Pierce, being able to counter Through the Breach, open deck list, and obviously they're friends. They're going to have an idea of what they're playing.
Right.
But especially in the open deck list portion, knowing that there's these big 5-mana spells on the way, and there's even a point where if you're on the play, there's a chance where you might just get to tag an early Amulet with it.
Now, where Patel was not ready for Amulet Titan, Harvey built his sideboard to deal with Izzet Phoenix. There's some interesting choices here, and they all match up so well.
How do you feel about Rurik Thar? Rending Volley.
Yeah, I first thought with Rending Volley, that was a card that was good against Twin Combo. That was banned 2 years ago. What's he removing? And then I took a look at the Izzet deck list.
Yeah, you get to tag the Thing in the Ice early. You get to he has these teetering peaks. He has all these red sources in his deck to be able to cast early copies of Rending Volley on Thing in the Ice before Patel's able to get in those crucial early hits with it.
Right. So he has those. We already have seen him sideboard in Hornet Queen in the matchup. Spell Pierce and Negate and Relica Progenitus all feel like they play as well. Dominic's going to improve a ton.
Yeah, exactly. This is a thing where Patel really needed to steal that early game, but Harvey had the tools.
All right, so the next stop on the SCG Tour after this weekend, we take a week off, but it is in Indianapolis. Star Games Indianapolis coming up in 2 weeks. The first show of the year for Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan, and the new team of Jerry Thompson and Brian Gottlieb.
I'm so excited to watch that event. I know this sounds silly, but it's the type of thing where I wasn't necessarily expecting Jerry and Brian to be announced on the roster. And I was even behind the scenes, but when I heard it,
it's still a surprise even when you know about it.
Exactly. But when I heard it, I just thought, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. They talk about Magic so well. Of course they're going to be a great commentary duo.
So second game will put Patel on the play. And it's just interesting, right? So because he can't do something like Blood Moon out his opponent, or there's other things I'd like to see here, just kind of things that can help him toward fast combo. What is he looking for then in the opener?
Honestly, you just have to be looking to be proactive.
Yeah.
If you don't have good reactive tools, that means that you're not going to be good at going to the later game, because that just means that your cards aren't lining up as well. You're not exchanging resources, and if you can't exchange resources, you kind of just have to take the role of the aggressor and try to kill them.
Yeah, a lot of times when playing Amulet, the 2-color Izzet decks tend to be bad matchups. Things like Storm can be tough. I know, like, Blue-Red Kiln Fiend, for example, is a horrible matchup for Amulet Titan.
Right.
It's a fast combo deck that then boards in 3 or 4 Blood Moons.
Exactly.
And, even without the Blood Moons, it's a hard matchup. Patel's deck has it's like the same trappings of it, right? You have Manamorphose, you have these free spells, but then it just doesn't actually add up to those same punches.
Exactly. There's a little bit of resiliency that's built into the Izzet Phoenix's threats, and this is almost the difference you'll see between, say, Hexproof and Infect, where you're paying a cost for your cards to be good against lightning bolts, which is how the Phoenix deck has built itself.
Right.
But if the opponent's not bolting or anything, all that means is you're just sacrificing speed, and that's going to cost you somewhere, and this is one of those places.
Fast mulligan here for Dominic Harvey as Patel has kept on 7. And that said, I want to give some credit to Dominic on this build for the weekend. Through the Breach has given his deck some extra speed. Right now, you talked about, remember last week, how Amulet Titan is a mid-range combo deck. This looks less like that.
Yeah, this one is what we call a combo deck.
Right.
Yeah, this one is definitely leaning a little bit more into the combo side of things. And one of the nice things about Through the Breach in particular is just that basically with Through the Breaches, you can do things at instant speed. And that's pretty nice, actually, is you can go end of your turn, go for this Through the Breach, and if it gets countered, then you just get to resolve your Primeval Titan or your next Through the Breach.
Yeah, the fact that it's at instant speed is great against blue decks.
Exactly. And even though Izzet Phoenix is literally a blue deck, it's kind of eschewing some of the interactive tools that blue gives you access to, just for that consistency that comes with having the cantrip color in your deck.
Yeah, I mean, we're still at a spot where if Dominic gets to 6 mana and just hard casts a Primeval Titan, Tariq doesn't actually have a counter spell that deals with that. He has some Spell Pierce, some Dispel, so Through the Breach is iffy, but the 6 mana creature is just fine.
Exactly. You don't see anything like Disdainful Stroke out of the sideboard that you'll see from some of these tempo-y decks.
Right. Both players keeping here on 6 for the second game. Tariq on the play. Now remember, Dominic's deck not with Tribe Scouts, so early on, we're just looking at Amulet of Vigor as a possible play.
Right.
Finds Boros Garrison.
The nice thing about that Boros Garrison is it unlocks the copy of Rending Volley hiding out in Harvey's hand there.
And Patel going to get on the board with the second turn here. Yeah, and if it is Rending Volley, it's going to line up pretty well here, especially as I think we're going to see Thing in the Ice from Tariq.
What in the ice?
Yeah, well, it's going to be dead in a second.
Who even knows, though, because Boros Garrison enters the battlefield tapped, and at the rate that these decks can just flip the card.
So it looks like actually Tariq doesn't have the 2-drop creature. He fetched before playing a spell because he wanted to be able to set up this scry.
Exactly. It always feels so bad to go, oh, yeah, I'll put this card on top, and then...
You look at your fetch land. Yeah, finds an opt off of Serum Visions. Looking at that top 2 on the scry. Leave out his hand at Crackling Drake as well.
Knowing how to sequence these fetches versus your cantrips is one of the things that makes or breaks these decks. Ross Miriam actually had a fantastic article about sequencing cantrips and knowing when you're supposed to use different things. I think it was about a month ago over on the premium side over at StarCityGames.com.
And that was it for Tariq, leaving up an end-step cantrip. And Dominic will take the opportunity to just make Boros Garrison. Passes
Land
back.
drop.
There's the checklist card. That's the Thing in the Ice from Tariq. Turn late, but no third land. He passes back, and Rending Volley should cleanly take care of this.
I like that Patel ended up not casting a cantrip there, knowing that he needed to kind of thaw out this Thing in the Ice.
Right, yeah, he had an opt on end step last turn that he didn't use.
Exactly.
And it was actually more aggressive than that. Tariq drew the Thing in the Ice this turn. He was holding the opt in the situation that if he draws Thing in the Ice, he'll want it then.
He did know it was there as a result of the Serum Visions, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just a real display of discipline on his part.
Azusa lost Beseeching from Dominic and 2 more land drops. That's going to set up next turn for Primeval Titan or Through the Breach, so Tariq needing to be on defense. Said he wanted to get some pressure early on. I don't really feel like he's put enough pressure down.
No, but I see a Manamorphose hiding out in his hand, so we know some fair things are about to happen.
Yeah, very fair things. I think he's going to get this transform, but the question now is whether that will be enough.
Right. Even without the Suzusa on the table, Harvey's going to be rolling right on up to 6 mana next turn.
Right. Card on the bottom for Patel off Opt. Draws into Spire Bluff Canal. Didn't have the land drop yet for the turn, so that'll play. Looks like 2 lightning bolts. Maybe even
you
3.
Think too small.
Well, okay. So if he sends... He has red mana floating. He can send 2 more bolts upstairs, attack, and Dominic's at 7.
That's a
hit
lethal,
away?
Yeah. Bolcha, 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 mushroom, mushroom.
Oh, man. I've heard a lot of that. That goes back.
I've been sitting here for, 10 seconds trying to think of a way to make the ooh, it's a snake joke as well.
It's the Primeval Titan.
Yeah, see, that doesn't sound like snake.
Whoa, it's a Titan.
No, getting colder.
Spire Bluff Canal from Tariq. He sends 1 bolt upstairs. Oh, come on. We got to go for the second one at this point.
Oh, what do you
And
do,
that's
not
going to
do
happen.
It?
Lightning bolt.
Upstairs.
Transform. Bounce Azusa. Swing in. Dominic's down to 7.
Always been a Lava Spike fan. Always been a Lava Spike fan.
I always said I like Lava Spike more than Lightning Bolt because I can't misplay it.
Oh, yeah. Woo, woo. Ye of little faith.
I'm targeting. Okay. I have to remember, don't target myself.
There are all kinds of things that Lava Spike can do. All kinds of things.
Just,
You can
3 damage in the first main phase, 3 damage in the second main phase.
With Quicken in the mix, you can even do 3
and
damage
step
in all
Lava Spike
kinds of phases.
It's down to 7. So Dominic, back on his turn. Ghost Quarter is land 6. That's 6 untapped mana. We're looking for a Primeval
2 of
Titan.
it's green.
Seems like a good time to cast a 6-drop, but does Dominic have it? And I don't think he does. 4 mana from Dominic is
Likely leaving a red in his pool.
Yeah, there's an Engineered Explosives in his hand, so it's possibly, without a Titan, maybe that's what he's building toward.
Right.
At least he can answer the Awoken Horror. So a white mana floating Vesuva copies Gruul Turf, picking up the basic forest. Plays a basic forest. That's all his land drops here. It's going to be Engineered Explosives onto. He'll be able to pass. Now remember, Dominic has had a Rending Volley in his hand the entire game, but because that sequencing last turn was actually got punished.
It's hard to say. So here, he may have already had the Engineered Explosives in this case and just know that he has it wrapped up. At least has the thing in the ice covered and would rather just develop his resources and answer it in that way rather than kind of stymie his own development a bit for the sake of just, taking a little bit less damage.
An attack from Awoken Horror, and Dominic cracks the Engineered Explosives. But now that it's gone, Tariq is free to play the 2-drop he just picked up. And that's one of his copies of Pyromancer Ascension.
The Lightning Bolt in his hand is the first step of the Ascension.
Right. Ideally, he'd like to trigger it with other cards because I think he wants to double the Lightning Bolt.
Ooh.
But he doesn't really have the tools to do that yet.
Right. It looks like he has a little bit of a creature-heavy hand. And, Arclight Phoenix attacking twice is similar to a doubled Lightning Bolt.
Right.
I'd put it closer to a doubled Lava Spike, actually. I know you like those.
Well, sometimes it gets blocked, so then it's bolting a creature.
Oh, geez.
So it's like it might be a Searing Blaze, right? A creature, and then 3 upstairs.
This is also confusing.
Red cards have so many modes.
Ooh, it's prime time.
Is that Badger? Is that Badger? Or is that Badger?
Oh, that's the closest I could get.
Here's Primeval Titan.
It's a callback. It's a callback. We're doing those. We're doing those now.
All right. Dominic packs for Primeval Titan. He has a Spell Pierce in hand. Now, he's going to get Simic Growth Chamber and Slayer Stronghold so that he can pick it up, play it as a land drop, give Titan haste, and attack with both. Another trigger on the way for Dominic. This is a swing for 9. Some life gain, perhaps. Maybe a way to transmute and get rid of that Pyromancer Ascension. It's not taking too much here. And he's going to go for Bazooka Bug. I actually like that a lot against the card Pyromancer Ascension. It'll take... All you need to do is stop it from getting counters for 1 turn, and Bog should do that.
Oh, yeah. If you just don't die, you're going to win this game. You got to be feeling pretty good about the time where you're getting to crack in for 9 and put them to less than 9.
Bazooka Bog and Radiant Fountain are the picks for Dominic. He goes to 9. Tariq's Graveyard is gone. This is a spot. I know I've been saying this, Emma. Tariq had a Blood Moon. There's only one basic forest, and there's a Pact in the graveyard.
Oh, he could be drawing to that right now.
End step Bolts puts a counter on Pyromancer Ascension.
This is in response to the Bog.
Okay.
You got to get a counter on there.
Dominic up to 6 after Radiant Fountain. So Tariq's going to have to get 6 damage on this turn. It's possible, right? He has an Arclight Phoenix in hand, but I feel like it would start with him drawing Faithless Looting, and then the Faithless Looting has to hit something pretty nice.
He could theoretically go Opt or 1-drop Cantrip into the same 1-drop Cantrip into Bolt.
And they're just showing up in the wrong order. His draw was the second Phoenix.
Oh.
He needed the Phoenix for the kill there, but not as the first card he drew. It needed to be a couple cards lower.
That's Dominic Harvey locking it up.
That is going to be it. 2-0. Dominic Harvey, again, he wins with Amulet Titan, and this week, he is your champion.